Good morning. I know that teaching online, teaching jewelry online is pretty tough. It's actually pretty tough. Okay, so look at these gemstones. These are really gem cut stones. And if you ask me, are they valuable? Yes, these are valuable. There's sapphires in there and topaz. And there's also amethyst in there. Some big amethyst stones are in there. So we're going to make a ring for a big amethyst stone. Now when you open a box like this, you got to be very careful because you can dump its contents in seconds. So be very careful. I look for a little bit of a seam, and then I'll take some kind of a sharp object. And so when you open a box like this, be very careful how you open it. You know, it's very easy to dump these stones on the floor. So these are real gem cut stones. And I'm going to select one to work with today. And it'll be about the size of the stone that I'm going to give you in class. So I'm going to give everybody in class one of these gem cut stones. Of course, it won't be an amethyst or a sapphire because I'm giving it to you free. You're not paying for it. But the value is very high, and the school wouldn't be able to support it. All right. There are some ovals in here. I'm going to try to do an oval. And I'm going to make it into a ring. So I'll take one out. And like I said, you have to be very, very careful how you handle this because this box is not a good box, a very cheap box. And you could easily dump the contents on the floor. Okay? So this is the stone that you're going to be making a bezel for, and you haven't done this. Most of you have never done this. I think maybe one or two kids actually did this, make a bezel, but nobody's made a bezel this way. So that's the stone you're going to be making a bezel for, all right? And you're going to find out the level of difficulty now of doing something like this. We're going to work with very thick metal because we're going to machine away for this stone to sit in. But let me show you the shank of this ring very carefully. All right. And that space is the setting space. That's where it's going to be set. I was very careful to cut that very straight on both sides. So that's the setting space that you're going to be working in. Now, this metal that I have is silver. It's tarnished, of course, because it's not clean. Cut it right about there. You see that line? Now you really, with metal this thick, let's see how thick this metal is. We'll set this for 1, and that's 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. So this is about 3 millimeters thick, okay? So we'll take a can torch and turn it on. When you turn it on, you're turning it on like that. And then to start the fire in it, you simply push. All right, and I'm going to take this and heat this to a light red color. Now, I'm trying to get a close-up of this. Through the software, I think I can get a close-up of this. But we want to bring this to a light red color, and it heats up pretty quick. This is butane. It's not a hot gas. The energy level of this gas is pretty low. So I'm going to heat this up to a light red color, and I'm getting there right now. And you can see behind it there's a trail of red, which means you're really close to annealing temperature and drop it in the water. Okay, and then to turn the gas off, this way, to the right. That'll be turning it off. Okay? These can torches are very inexpensive. They're about 300 baht with the gas. And you might, when you start jewelry, if you want to do this at home, this may be the first way to go. But eventually, you'll need a mixed gas torch, something that looks like that. That's two gases, LPG and oxygen. And there's two tanks on the other side of this table. But the red knob is LPG, the cooking gas that you use at home, and in Thailand. And this gas here is oxygen. So this is a two gas torch. And if you ask me which is hotter, this is about 25 times hotter than this. And the way this torch works, it works with air. And it brings the air in through these holes and mixes it with the gas in the can. And the gas in the can is butane. It's not as hot as LPG. Okay, so I annealed my metal already. Let's fish it out of the water. This is just water here. And it's super soft. And you want to dry it off when you finish. So you'll dry this off. And you're going to stay with me while I make this bezel, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the edge of this. And I first maybe need to do this with a plenishing hammer. Let me show you what a plenishing hammer looks like. This is a plenishing hammer, okay? And it's got this beautiful shape at the end so that you can grip it really nicely and hit with it. Big head, and usually I polish this head. And I don't think that this head right now, I should be hitting metal with it because it's quite disturbed. You know, it's dirty and oxidized, and never hit silver with a head on a hammer that looks like that when you're using a steel hammer. Okay. So I'm cutting out a piece, a little piece that's only 1.5 millimeter. I'm about halfway through now. Even with this fine blade, it cuts really nice. Silver cuts it's a very soft metal like gold, so it cuts beautifully, cuts really nice. And you can lubricate your saw. If you have some wax, you can lubricate the blade. It makes the cutting go a little easier. But I've almost cut through the piece now, and I'm going to go to the close camera. I might have to cut another tiny piece out to squeeze it in a little tighter. But did you see how I did that? That's the important question here. Did you see how I did that? Okay? And how beautiful that is? And that's how you make a bezel. Now this bezel, we're going to take a burr and cut this so the stone sits in flat. And we're going to leave a little edge up to bend over the stone. Okay? So that's the kind of a setting that we're making here. You can cut a space out, but when you cut that space out, be sure that the file, these sides are filed flat like this, right to the center. So these sides are flat to the center. There's a center, the imaginary center, right there, okay? And you want to make sure when you file to file out the center. And don't get it to size yet, because we'll do that later to fit that bezel in there. It's a very thick metal bezel. And there it is. Okay. And we're going to set the stone in that, and then that's a long process, and we'll take our time. So that's all we have for today.